Hi everyone, I am back again talking about the book Goodbye to Guilt by Gerald G Jampolsky, and this chapter is called A Bridge to Heaven on Earth, and the chapter is in Goodbye to Guilt. It can be used as a bridge that leads us from the belief in our egos to the belief in love. Heaven on earth, heaven can be brought a thought of not as a place. Okay, can be a thought of not as a place, but a state of mind. It's the experience of oneness with each other and God as of limitless peace, joy and love. For us to experience that state of mind for just 1 second requires a shift in our perception that at first may seem difficult to make. Now, the word difficult is actually usually part of our belief system. So because we have been led to believe that things are too difficult for us, or we've made ourselves think that way. But actually, there's nothing which is difficult. It just means we have to do small steps to actually and take the steps to actually achieve these things. If we have the belief that things are going to be difficult, it limits our learning abilities. We don't have to relive the past and its difficulties, or we don't need to procrastinate. We can choose right now to have that 1 second on heaven on earth. When our mind is still and completely at peace, we can experience unlimited joy and an unlimited joy unlimited beyond our imagination. We can experience heaven on earth when we experience peace, patience, love, gentleness, serenity, light-heartedness, kindness, laughter, tenderness and happiness. So if we actually had all those, if we experienced those and we didn't worry about anything else, we would have heaven on earth. Now, have you ever felt that? I know over the last 12 months I've had a couple of occasions where I've been in that kind of heaven on earth feeling, where I've literally just been sat there and I have felt at peace. I have felt love. I've felt the serenity and I've felt the patience and the light-heartedness. Yes, we've been in the middle of a pandemic, but it's allowed me to become one with myself and to actually be able to not worry about things and not stress about things and it's allowed me to be in the moment, if that makes sense. Gerald explains that with certainty, our natural state is love. We also know nothing can threaten us. What came to my mind is a baby who's just been born. So when a baby's born, all they are is love, because they don't have fear and they don't have guilt. It's not there, they can't relate it, they're just a clean slate, and they just smile and they just love you. On the other hand, when we're not certain and we have doubts about who and what we are, guilt and fear will block the expression of these positive, happy emotions. So how to achieve this heaven on earth? We've got to forgive. We've got to have true forgiveness. We've got to bridge the walk across and release that guilt and fear and allow us to experience the heaven on earth. It produces a chart which I'll put in my group Transforming Your Life on Facebook, and it talks about a prescription of inner truth for inner peace. And it says about forgiving your parents totally. Forgive everyone who has ever been here, who is here now, or who will be here in the future, including ourselves totally. Forgive the world totally. Forgive God totally. Take a leap in faith and trust in love and trust God. Choose to experience peace rather than conflict. Choose to experience love rather than fear and guilt. Choose to be a love finder rather than a fault finder. Choose to be a love giver rather than a love seeker, and teach only love. Gerald explains what the purpose of forgiveness is to help us see there is no true value in guilt. For forgiveness to be completely effective, it must be total. It has to be a full total of 100%. 95% forgiveness doesn't work. The frequent analogy which Gerald talks about is if you're either pregnant or you're not. We can never hurt or be hurt unless we believe our reality is identified with our body rather than our spirit. Gerald explains when we identify only with true reality of light and the light of others, the process of forgiveness then permits us or whatever we think people have done to us or we have done to others. It's like dreaming that someone hurt us and waking up still believing our dream is real. Forgiveness will help us let go of our illusionary past so we can experience love in the present as our only reality. Forgiveness allows us to see what we thought was a sin, calling for guilt and punishment, is only a mistake that needs correction, not punishment. So if something happens, it's a mistake, and we have to just learn from it and just forgive. Forgiveness is letting go. Children are wonderful teachers. Gerald says children are wonderful teachers. My experience, children, they fall out and within 5 minutes they're back friends again because they forget about whatever's happened. You know, maybe we should be able to, maybe we should take a page out of their books. You know, over the years I have watched the children play and they do fall out, but then 10 minutes later they're actually playing again. Maybe that's what we, rather than hanging on to the guilt and the fear and everything for years, which we do, maybe we need to just let it go. So he explains about a time he took a 12-year-old boy who had cancer called Tony, who was an active member of a children's group from the centre where he volunteered. And at a meeting, one of the regional managers was expressing a great deal of anger because a competing company, had lured away one of his key employees. Gerald asked Tony what he may say to be helpful. Tony asked the man, Tony's the young boy, asked the man, "Are you upset?" The man replied, "Yes." Tony then said, "If you can be anywhere in the world that you wanted to be, where you could be relaxed and feel peaceful, where would it be?" The man answered, "Hawaii." Tony suggested to the manager, "Close your eyes and imagine that you are there in Hawaii, at one with the warm sand, the sky and the water." Tony said, "You know, mister, you cannot feel peace and relaxed while angry. You cannot make wise decisions until you forgive. Not just the competitor, but also the employee. Forgiveness is letting go, letting the incident flow away." Later, the manager came over to Gerald and said, "Jerry, if you had told me the same thing, I would not be receptive. But when a 12-year-old tells you, they seem to so simple and right on." Gerald goes on to say, most of us live in the world of a state of anguish, wondering who or what will attack us next. So how can we get rid of these fearful thoughts? Gerald says it's not as complicated as we think, providing we let go of the old belief system. As we saw, children have a way of making seemingly complicated things clear and simple. Forgiveness is the answer. It allows the miracle of love to take place so we can heal relationships and recognise there is no separation. We cannot teach love and be consistently loving until we stop blaming others and ourselves. We cannot demonstrate total love until we have healed all our relationships. Forgiveness is the key to happiness because it removes all blocks of fear and guilt and allows us to live in a world of all-inclusive love. Now he talks about checking points. And the checking points, there's 10 of them, so I will actually put it in my group again. I'll say a couple of them. So, am I willing to see any problems regardless of its form? All guilt, pain and frustration as a statement that my ego mind is fearful of God and is choosing to be separate from God. Am I willing to be responsible for what I see? Am I holding on to guilt and making a judgment because someone else or myself, or am I being forgiving? And do I truly trust that God's will for me is perfect happiness right now? Do I see the purpose of this relationship as always for joining and not for separation? Like I said, there are another 6, but I will put them in my group Transforming Your Lives in Facebook. Gerald says there are times when he's found that nothing seems to help him forgive and that I has chosen to hang on to the fear. He goes on to say, not very long ago, he found himself quite depressed, feeling he had been hurt and rejected by someone very close to him. He said he felt it was real, not illusionary, and it didn't seem as though he was responsible for what he saw, but that someone else was hurting him. He said the principles that he's mentioned in his book seemed to be idle, although honorific to him. He was stuck and he did not seem to be able, nor did he want to change his mind. He said he certainly didn't have God's presence in his love, and he even began to doubt his existence in life. He began to wonder if he really understood what it meant to be on a spiritual path. He says when he was finally able to quieten himself and ask for help and inner guidance, he wrote the checklist points in going home to God. He says he flunked all 10 points and he began to see how the distortion and deceptions of his ego had tricked him into believing he was separate from God. So he took the time to go within and actually see what was going on. He says you may find the checking points useful, so I will put them in my group Transforming Your Life on Facebook. While he's been writing the notes, while I've been writing the notes from this chapter, I've had a big clearing of a past experience in my life, and it was a really big shift. So I could really recommend this book because, like I said, I have a big clear out in the last week. It's really dealt with some really deep emotions, which then I've had to use my tap around the clock to actually clear the emotions and things what have come up from it. So the check-in points are which the visual notes will be in my group. I've read some of them for you. The mental imagery and forgiveness. Many people have told me that following mental imagery exercise in forgiveness has been of considerable help to them. So Gerald says, he says, close your eyes and use your imagination to see yourself in front of a very special microscope. When you're looking into the microscope, imagine you can see your own individual heart cells. Look carefully and you will see they are round cells with smiling faces. These faces are smiling because they are completely full and saturated with love. They have everything they need within them. They need nothing from the outside. So if you can just imagine those cells, their love just extends and expands, asking no questions and making no judgments. Each cell is a microcosm of you and me. Your identity, like the cell's identity, is boundless love and in our true state. We do not need anything from the outside. Gerald says, look carefully with your imagination and you will be able to see the energy radiating from the love in the cell and a white light getting brighter and brighter. Gerald says, see the white light obliterating the cellular membrane and joining the white light from all the other heart cells. See your heart pulsating white light, getting brighter all the time. The light is a reflection of God's love. Say to yourself silently, I am the light of the world. He now says, use your imagination to its fullest. Visualize the light going to all the cells in your body. See your body being transformed into a beam of light. Next, see your light joining and merging with all the other beams of light in the universe until there is just one universal light, continuing to get brighter and brighter. Now he wants you to actually think of somebody who irritates you, who depresses you, someone you've not totally forgiven. Let go of the guilty misperception that you have ever hurt this person or he or she has ever hurt you. Let go of the past and see if it is a dream that has vanished. Use your imagination and see that person walking into the light and becoming that light. And as you do that, say to yourself, I forgive you and me, both one and the same. Now I can say goodbye to guilt and love and guilt and blame. The next chart in the chapter is a suggestion for making alive the principles of truth. Again, these can be considered a daily guideline to help us control the thoughts of our mind and apply the lessons in the book each day. Gerald suggests throughout the day, once each hour, if possible, review the principles and apply to today activities. In the evening before you go to bed, take 10 minutes to go over the lessons and let it all go. Now, suggestions for making the principles of truth alive. As you awaken in the morning, remind yourself right away that peace of mind, peace of God is the only goal you want today. To have this peace, choose to release any negative thoughts of fear, guilt and pain that you may have found in your mind on awakening. Remind yourself that God's will for you today is perfect happiness, with a smile on your face and in your heart. Go out into the world and extend your happiness to all whom you meet. Decide today that you will not give the power to make you happy or miserable to people or conditions in your external world. After you have read each day's lesson in the morning, allow at least 10 minutes of quiet time for the lesson to become part of yourself. So that's today's chapter finished and discussed. If you have any questions, or if you want to deal with any kind of guilt or any kind of emotions and you feel like you need some kind of support, somebody to hold your hand, please feel free to message me. My contact details are on my page, on my YouTube channel, also within my Facebook group and on my Facebook pages. Hope you got something out of that, and I will do another video tomorrow.